Retirement is supposed to be a time of peace, right? But for so many Canadians, the worry of debt can cast this long, dark shadow over everything. And one of the biggest questions, the one that causes a ton of stress, is can my hard-earned pension actually be taken by creditors? So let's dive into that today and bring some real clarity to the situation.
I mean, if you're here watching this, there's a good chance this very question has crossed your mind. It's a completely valid concern, especially when you're trying to manage things like credit card debt or old loans, all while on a fixed income. I just want you to know you're definitely not alone in feeling this way.
Okay, so let's cut right to the chase and start with some good news. The most important thing to know is that for your typical consumer debts, we're talking credit cards, personal loans, lines of credit, the law in Canada actually provides a really strong shield for your government pension. It's designed to give you a fundamental layer of security.
So why is that protection even there? Well, it's pretty simple. The government's goal is to make sure that all seniors have a reliable, basic income to live on. It's a really key part of our country's social safety net.
And when we talk about protected pensions, we're really talking about the big three federal programs. First, there's the Canada Pension Plan, or CPP, which you've been paying into your whole working life. Then you've got Old Age Security, or OAS. And for lower-income seniors, there's the Guaranteed Income Supplement, or GIS. For the most part, these are off-limits to ordinary creditors. But, and this is a really, really important but, that shield is not bulletproof. It is not absolute. While the general rule is protection, there are a few very specific, very critical exceptions where your pension income could, in fact, be at risk. And it's so important that you understand exactly what these are. In fact, there are three main scenarios where those normal protections just don't apply. Let's walk through each one step by step.
First up, family support. Now, why is this one different? Well, the legal system sees taking care of dependents as a top priority. So things like court-ordered child support or spousal support are considered priority debts. And because of that, enforcement agencies have some really powerful tools to collect that money, and that includes the ability to garnish pension.
All right, the second big exception is any debt you owe to the government itself, specifically the Canada Revenue Agency, or the CRA. The CRA has collection powers that are, well, pretty unique. They can use a tool called a set-off, and what that means is they can basically intercept federal payments, like your pension, and redirect that money to cover your unpaid taxes. Because the government is both the one paying the benefits and the one collecting the taxes, debts to the CRA just play by a different set of rules.
And the third exception has to do with specific court orders. This is a bit less common, but in certain legal cases, like if a judge orders someone to pay restitution to a victim of a crime, they might rule that those payments can be taken from income sources that would normally be protected. It's not something you see every day for retirees, but it is a legal possibility.
Okay, so that covers your government benefits. But what about the money you've saved yourself? What about your RRSPs, RRIFs, and employer pensions? Well, the rules for those are different, and honestly, they can get a little more complex. Now, this right here is probably one of the most critical things to understand. There is a huge difference here. While your money is sitting safely inside a registered plan, like an RRSP or your company pension, it generally has strong legal protection from creditors. But the moment you withdraw that money, the second it lands in your personal bank account, its status completely changes. It becomes cash, just like any other deposit, and it can be vulnerable to garnishment if a creditor has a court order. And to add another layer to this, the specific rules protecting your RSSPs and RRIFs, well, they aren't the same all across Canada. These rules are provincial, which means how safe your private savings are can actually depend on which province you live in. So knowing the rules is one thing, but what can you actually do if you're worried about all this? Let's shift gears from explaining the problems to talking about practical, real-world solutions that can help you take back control of your finances. Here's a simple four-step approach to think about. First, try to talk to your creditors early on, before things get too serious. Second, always prioritize paying those exception debts we talked about, family support and taxes. Third, be super careful about taking money out of your RRSP to pay off a regular loan because you might just be moving it from a protected place to an unprotected one. And finally, number 4, it's time to look into formal, structured solutions.
So, what's one of these structured solutions? Well, a really powerful one is called a consumer proposal. This is a formal, legal process that's overseen by a licensed insolvency trustee. And one of its biggest benefits is that it creates what's called a stay of proceedings, which is a fancy way of saying it legally stops most collection calls and garnishments dead in their tracks, all while letting you arrange to repay just a portion of what you owe.
Okay, let's pull all of this together now and map out a clear path forward for you.
This checklist right here is your key takeaway. It's a simple but really effective way to figure out where you stand. First, know what kind of debt you're dealing with. Second, know where your income is coming from. Then, understand which legal protections apply to that income. And if things have already gotten serious, it's really time to evaluate those formal solutions to protect your income for the long haul.
And of course, I have to mention that all of this is for general educational purposes. It's here to help you understand the landscape, but your own situation is totally unique, so this isn't a substitute for getting professional, legal, tax, or financial advice tailored to you.
If there is just one thing that I hope you take away from our chat today, it's this message right here. I know that facing debt, especially during retirement, can feel incredibly lonely, but please know you are not alone in this, and there is always a path forward.
For those of you who are dealing with a significant amount of unsecured debt, we're typically talking over $10,000 from things like credit cards or lines of credit. Just know that there are professional, structured options out there that can provide real relief.
So if that sounds like your situation, I'd invite you to visit canadiandebtrelief.ca. You can see if you might qualify for a free, completely confidential, and no obligation chat with a nonprofit credit counselor. It's a safe, simple first step you can take right now to understand your options and find that path forward. Thanks for watching.